Back to Create Your Best Chapter, where I chat with women who talk about job loss, divorce, other major life changes that impact us, and they share their stories. They also share their insights and their wisdom and their advice. And I think it's so important to bring women together to have this conversation because a lot of us are going through something that's really stressful, really overwhelming, like a job loss or divorce. And sometimes we feel like we're alone in that journey. And I want to remind everyone that you're not alone. And I'm really excited today to have a former client of mine. Her name's Joanne C. And I met Joanne last year. She's going to share her story, but I'm really excited to have her here because she's gone through such an amazing transformation. And I'm so looking forward to hearing her story and having you hear how she's transformed her situation into something that's really positive and just really amazing. And I know you're going to be really inspired by her. So, Joanne, I'm so happy that you're here.
Hi, Vera. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So, we met last year, and tell us about what happened after you met me.
So I met Vera shortly after, or maybe even before I experienced a job loss last year. October 18th of last year, I'd been working in banking and finance for 17 years and had a meeting at the end of the day. And the news in the meeting was that I was losing my job, and I was very shocked. I remember leaving that meeting feeling very confused, emotional, angry, and sad, confused, just an array of emotions. And then I ended up leaving my workplace and being out in the parking lot of the car. And I remember very distinctly text messaging my loved ones and letting them know that I lost my job. And their initial response was that they thought that I was joking. But I was completely serious. And shortly thereafter, I met you, Vera, through LinkedIn. And I just loved what you were doing. I was on board with what you were doing. We figured out a way to have me join the Wisdom Collective, which was every Friday at the time, I believe. And this group of women just helped me in a time of confusion and sadness and really deep loneliness. And just really helped support me and relate to me and relate with others. And just all these women going through the same kind of process that I was going through, which I didn't ever believe that I would be connected to women that were going through the same thing.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Joanne. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate all the different emotions that you talked about, right? Like anger and confusion and anxiety, and just all these things are coming up. And I'm curious because I know that you did a couple of different things to help yourself regulate those emotions and process them. So, can you share a little bit about what you leaned into and what you maybe learned in terms of how to process those feelings and emotions?
Yes, I would say that the most important tool that I learned, especially in the Wisdom Collective, was learning how to have a routine in this time that I had all of this space and time in my life to really be a detriment to myself, to be honest. And instead of using that time to be a detriment to myself, I learned how to continue to have routine, to continue to have pillars in place, which included even just breathing, just scheduling in breathing in my day to help alleviate the anxiety and help to overcome all of these confusing feelings that I was processing and going through, and come out on the other side of it. So definitely having routine and breathing regularly, learning how to retrain myself to breathe properly because I've always been in this place of operating in a place of anxiety and high performance. And it's almost like it's accepted and welcomed in our like culture in our society. But I had to take that time to tune into me, to tune into my values, to tune into really what would honor me and feel good to me and really be a strong self-care.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying. I appreciate what you're saying about setting up the routine. I hear that a lot from clients where they're like, I have all this time and I don't know what to do with it. I feel lost because when you're working, you have a structure, It's like you have to show up to the office or on Zoom or on Teams at a certain time. You kind of know what's expected of you during the day, and it's kind of dictated to you in a way, right? You have meetings set up, things like that. And all of a sudden, when you don't have that, you kind of feel like you're floating a little bit. And sometimes it's nice, like, oh, I have all this time in the world. But if you're not actually feeling like you've accomplished something or produced something, it can feel a little bit, I think, a little bit disconcerting and a little bit, like you said, like you just feel lost. So I love that you scheduled in even things like breathing.
Mhm. And it's something that I've used even to this day when I have a structured schedule again and a lot of high productivity, in my schedule. I schedule in times in the morning to just breathe, just to take a moment to close my eyes, breathe, center myself, and that helps to really set the tone for the day. And when I say I set the schedule for breathing, I don't mean like 15 minutes or 20 minutes or half an hour. I just mean a 5-minute timer in my schedule that I just breathe and just center myself again.
It's important, isn't it, to know that it doesn't have to take a long time. And I know I teach this a lot. I preach this a lot, that things don't have to take long. And something that I've been really leaning into recently is creating rituals. And I think that's what you're talking about. And maybe you're not using that language, but it's about creating a ritual that's sacred, that's special, that's your time to get centered and grounded. And the morning seems to be where a lot of people have or find the time to do that, because you
Mhm.
can get up a couple of minutes early, or it is a nice way to get started in your day. And I love that you're continuing that, because almost it's as important as when you're going through something stressful as when you're back to work, right?
Mhm. Speaking of that, Vera, speaking of the mornings, I've used that time to carve out space for myself, starting with the Wisdom Collective. I remember one of the exercises you had taught us or coached us to was to take the day as it comes. And that was so hard for me to let go of the scheduling and the need to do and be productive and to produce, just like you said. And I took those mornings to take a moment to go out on the deck and to have a cup of coffee and enjoy the sunrise as it came up, which I've never really experienced before. I took a moment to swim in the ocean and do cold plunges in the ocean with new friends that I met. I took a moment to go out on the deck again at nighttime and notice that sunset going down. So it's really trained me to have a deep sense of gratitude in my days. And I to this day I continue on to creating gratitude lists. So each morning I'll wake up and I'll just brainstorm all the things that I'm grateful for that morning, and I'll type it out on a memo pad on my phone or write it out on a piece of blank paper. But it just helps to really set the precedent for the day of all the things that you have to be grateful for when things can change in a short time span.
Wow, that's so powerful. And I remember you posting all those sunrises on Facebook, and I was always so amazed because where you live is so beautiful in BC and has the most
Mhm.
incredible sunrises. And I loved how you just embraced that part of your journey. And I remember you telling me, you know what, Vera, like I'm feeling so low. Like I feel like I'm in such a dark place, and you couldn't see the end of it, right? Because when you're in it, you feel like, when is this going to end? I don't even think it's ever going to end.
Mhm.
But you just dug so deep and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy this sunrise for today. If that's
Mhm.
the only thing I enjoy and if that's what I'm grateful for, that's going to get me through the next day. And I was always so inspired by that, knowing that you could do that even in the midst of feeling so low and so dark. So, what would be your advice for other people that are going through something similar and they're feeling that, when is this going to end, or this will never end? I'm always going to be stuck in this.
I would say to use this time and space to honor yourself and to really tune into yourself to find out what your values are, to find out what you enjoy doing, what your skill set is, um, the people that you get on with, what you truly dream of doing in your life. So, for example, I really wanted to start doing yoga again. I ended up finding a yoga studio that allowed me to do what's called energy exchanges. So they offered me to volunteer in exchange for free yoga classes. And this was at a time that I had lost my income, so it was really important. So my advice would be probably to stick to a routine. Take this time to honor yourself both personally and professionally. Find out what your values are truly are and connect with other people. It might be counterintuitive to reach out to other people, to talk to them about your experience, because it's very taboo to lose your job. So to talk to other people, connect with other people, and you never know when there will be another opportunity from those connections that you made.
Mhm. It's interesting to me that it's still a bit of a taboo subject, isn't it? Because
Mhm.
it once you once you start talking to people, almost everybody has gone through something similar. They've either lost a job or they've had something that's really impacted their life, and yet we don't wanna talk about it, and we feel like that's why we feel like we're the only ones going through it, and that could be the really lonely piece. So, it's so true. It's connecting with other people, sharing your story. You never know what they're gonna say back. Inevitably, they're gonna say, "Oh my gosh, thanks for sharing because I've gone through something similar, and I really appreciate that you're sharing your experience so that I don't feel so alone."
Mhm.
Um, and something that's coming up for me as you say all these things that you were learning was all these gifts that came to
Mhm.
you through even in the dark times, you were able to really see all these gifts. And I'm curious, looking back now on the experience, what other gifts have come up? Like, what other gifts do you recognize as
Yeah.
coming up from this journey of yours?
That's a great question. I've really learned how scrappy I am, to be honest, how willing I am to get down and dirty. And what I mean by that is using my skills to be resourceful, to know where to get food at discounted rates or discounted costs because I have no income now, to finding yoga classes that are free, to creating friendships online and connections online, because that's the direction we're going really is online. A lot of connections are forming that way now. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, and it's learning about yourself, right? Because
Mhm.
really we're tested in the hard times, right? When things are going well, it's easy to be, yeah, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I have a routine, I'm doing all the things that are right for me. But really, we need to learn how to dig deep when things happen
Yeah.
because inevitably things are going to happen. Like life, that's part of life. And I'm so glad that you're in this great spot. But I think we all know that there's going to be other challenges that come up in your life, and you don't know what those are. But
Mhm.
learning the tools, right? Like now you know, okay, I know what's going to work for me. I know how to be grateful. I know how to get myself into the present moment. I know how to regulate my nervous system. I know that I can be scrappy and resourceful and creative, and I know that I can be resilient. So you're taking all these things that you learned about yourself into this next chapter of your life. And not only that, you can also showcase that and help other people who are going
Mhm.
through something similar, right? So another gift that's come to you.
Mhm. And that's what I find now in my life. I'm in a completely different space, like living in a new city, um, doing different activities after work, studying also for an exam that I have to take, but doing different activities after work that are so much more in tune with who I am, and I just feel like almost like a phoenix rising from the ashes, like, you just come from so much confusion and mess and turmoil and come to a really great place if you just take the time to just put one foot in front of the other and take each day as it comes.
Mhm. And that's such great wisdom for other people that are going through something like this, knowing that keep putting one foot in front of the other, taking each day as it comes, not looking too much into the future, but just focusing on what needs to happen today, looking after yourself, nurturing your health and your wellness. And
Mhm.
then you're also giving that hope, right? Like you've now found this great new job that you're super happy in, you've moved to a new place. So it's always a matter of time. Like I always know that people are going to land somewhere. The uncertainty is what makes it hard. It's like we just don't we
Yes.
wanna know, but when, right? When is this going to happen and how is this going to happen? And it's not really up to us to know the when and the how. It's up to us to keep doing those small daily actions that are going to keep us in that high frequency energy and that's going to keep us moving forward, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, or even if it's just, hey, today I can only do looking at the sunrise and drinking coffee. Like that's my
Mhm.
accomplishment for the day because that's just how I feel. And that's okay. You're honoring that, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
So you did find a new role, a new job. How did that come about? Like, what strategies and tactics did you use to help create that new role for yourself?
So it came about through my network, actually. I had taken the time to curate my resume, curate my cover letters for those people that did ask for cover letters, and send them out electronically. Did get interviews that way as well. But the big difference for me was connecting to my network. And what I mean by that is I was volunteering at the time for an organization that does amazing work in BC and just helps with food poverty and period poverty for women. Um, just so many different initiatives. And through that, I was offered a temporary part-time job that helped tide me over in the meantime. And through that, I was kind of assigned to go to a networking event at the Nanaimo Chamber of Commerce. And when I went to that networking event, I had met people that worked in my industry in banking and finance. And I guess I was recommended through there and just it got the ball rolling. I not to say that that's all the steps that I took. I did have a coach as well that helped coach me through different parts of the interview process as well, because this was a high level interview that I was taking. So I did hire a business coach that helped me out. And I would say the power of our network is huge. You never know when someone's going to recommend you or find potential in you or relate to your story and want to help out.
And that's so true. Networking is so powerful. I had a coach that used to always say that your network is your net worth. And I took that so much to heart. And I really, really believe that there's power in our network, in our communities, right? And who we know and who we get to know. But just to point out, like you're also putting yourself out there,
Mhm.
right? You were also taking action every day. You were doing all the things.
Mhm.
And you were also giving back. Like think about the importance of that. Like you're like, I need to fill up my time to do something that makes me feel fulfilled. So I'm going to volunteer,
Mhm.
right? I'm going to do something that gives back. And I think there's so much power in giving of our time and of our energy and not expecting anything in return, but doing it because it makes us really feel fulfilled. So I think all of those actions, all of those intentions are so important. But you wouldn't have been able to do that if you were dysregulated, if you were just staying
Mhm.
stuck in this, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this happened to me. I've been working at this company for 17 years, right? Like they're such bad people. I can't believe they fired me. Like whatever whatever that story was, and I'm just in this dark place and I can't get out of it. Like you recognize I need to do something. You
Mhm.
asked for help. Like you reached out to me and said, okay, I'm ready to start with the coaching. I'm ready
Mhm.
to join the Wisdom Collective. Like you took action, you invested in yourself, you committed to the hard, deep inner work,
Mhm.
and those ripples eventually come back to you. So it's all of those things and it's being super committed. So I acknowledge you for doing all of these things and for being such a shining example of this is the power of doing this deep inner work. This is the power of hiring coaches. Like you
Thank
hired
you.
different coaches, right? Like you
Mhm.
asked for help, you were vulnerable, you reached out to people, you communicated with them your story, and you did things out of your comfort zone as
Mhm.
well, which I think in today's competitive world, it's different right now. Like you said, a lot of stuff is online. There's all of these AI systems that
Yeah.
people need to get their resumes through, right? So what can you do that's a bit creative? How can you get out of your comfort zone? How can you dig deep and just keep doing that work every day and taking action? So I really admire you and I feel like you're such an inspiration to so many people and I'm so glad that you landed something where you feel fulfilled and you feel happy and it was also a step up for you, which is so amazing and incredible.
Thank you, Vera. I think that on that note, I wouldn't have been able to do this without I do believe in myself, but I wouldn't have been able to get through this process without the Wisdom Collective. Just the women mirroring what we were going through so that we could hear it ourselves, kind of where we're at physiologically, emotionally, physically, maybe even physically experiencing pain and hardship that way. Because it can be a very physiological response when we lose our job or have a big life change. And just the women mirroring back what I was going through, being supportive and showcasing that change as we went through it. So I still distinctly remember one of the women in the Wisdom Collective saying, "Joanne, do you notice how much you've changed? Before you were really anxious, ramped up, ready to go, almost like I'm ready to fight." Um, and and I remember in that moment being really calm and just taking everything moment by moment, being really present. And one of the ladies mirrored that back to me and said, "Have you noticed this?" And I didn't notice it at the time, and it helped me become aware of where I was at and how much I had changed and also grown in that little amount of time.
And it's why I love doing the group coaching. I love the Wisdom Collective because it brings women together. And when women come together in community, in a spirit of encouragement and growth
Mhm.
and learning and wanting to share and wanting to receive, really powerful things happen. And the really incredible thing is that the Wisdom Collective is 6 weeks. So
Mhm.
look at the transformation that happened with all of the women in the group in 6 weeks.
Absolutely.
So, if you're listening to this, I really encourage you. I have a next group coming up in a couple of weeks. Stay tuned with my website, follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn, sign up to be on my in my community on my email list so that you can receive all the notifications of the next group. So like I said, there's a next group coming up in a couple of weeks, but I'll also be doing this throughout the year because we need this. We need community. We need to be connected. We need to start moving forward because when you start to feel more energized and make right decisions and start moving forward and be able to give back, guess what happens? Right? Like now all of a sudden you're able to help those around you even more.
Mhm.
You're able to make an impact in the world. And we need that, right? So women, we're changing the world. So let's
Yes.
get together, right? Let's make it happen. I really want this for you. I want you to be the next Joanne, right? I want you to go from feeling like this really dark, lost, confused, lonely place to finding something for yourself that is really fulfilling. But more importantly than that, Joanne, is now that you have the tools, you know how to regulate yourself. You're feeling
Mhm.
less anxious. You're feeling more confident and empowered. You
Mhm.
know how to create structure in your life. You know how to bring in gratitude into your life so that when those little bumps come along the road or the big bumps come on the road, you're able to tap into that. And because you're practicing them every day, you're strengthening that muscle. So
Mhm.
I I so appreciate you being here with me today and I so appreciate you sharing your story, your advice, your wisdom and your guidance. I'm so thrilled for you and I just love this transformation. So thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it, Joanne.
Thank you, Vera. I just wanted to say as well that since the Wisdom Collective, learning how to regulate my nervous system, I haven't had that anxiety every single day that I'm going into work, that before that as soon as I wake up, I'm having this anxiety and having physical symptoms of anxiety. And now I'm not in that place at all. I'm completely regulated, in tune with my values, in tune with my intentions, and just coming from a place of just really, I would say, deep mindfulness.
Wow. That's so amazing. Like, what an amazing way to be. What an amazing way to live. What an amazing way to wake up every morning and feel that confidence and know that it's all within you. You have the power to do that. So, thank you so much for sharing that. So amazing, Joanne.
Thank you so much, Vera.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Bye for now.